We've seen a lot of games featuring the renowned Caped Crusader throughout the years. The bat signal was most recently sparked by Rocksteady's Arkham series, and its influence can still be felt in every modern superhero game since, with even titles outside of the Marvel/DC ambit taking inspiration from the crunchy fighting. WB Games Montreal, the studio behind Batman: Arkham Origins, is preparing to release Gotham Knights, and while it won't necessarily contain Batman himself, it's a good moment to reflect on every game involving DC's famous hero thus far. 1. Batman: Arkham Origins Blackgate. This spin-off may go unnoticed, which is perhaps for the best. The Caped Crusader and his daring exploits were brought to the small screen in Batman: Arkham Origins Blackgate, which was released for the Nintendo 3DS and PlayStation Vita. It's a 2.5D side-scrolling action game that continues off right where Arkham Origins left off, with Batman dealing with an explosion at Blackgate Prison that lets the Joker, Penguin, and Black Mask run amok. While the plot is rambling and ultimately worthless, it does offer a few bold ideas. It attempts to adapt as much of the console experience as possible to mobile devices, with stealth gaming, grappling, and even explosive gel making the cut. The camera's imaginative usage of zooming in at certain flashpoints and courting glides, as well as putting Batman in the sights as part of the Deadshot combat, must be commended. The combat is still satisfying, but the level design is disjointed, and the graphics have suffered significantly, with muddy textures and hazy signposting leading to continual misdirection. 2. Batman: Arkham Origins. A game in this series that was handled by a separate developer, WB Montreal. The team took a risk and created a prequel, setting the game 5 years before the events of Arkham Asylum. It has a considerably more contained narrative than the other Arkham games, with a plot that unfortunately doesn't amount to much more than introducing Batman's connection with Troy Baker's Joker, who completely steals the show with multiple outstanding scenes. Unfortunately, aside from some amusing character-to-character banter, the plot is riddled with flaws, and it frequently undermines its own most intriguing turns by burying or ignoring them. The massive open environment is beautiful to look at but feels hollow, and detective mode has become monotonous. Despite some outstanding boss battles that made effective use of their individual villains, the game seems bloated with overpowering gadgets that reduce fighting to repetitive punching. Instead of being meticulous with its encounter design, the game frequently throws legions of opponents at Batman without rhyme or reason, a tactic that quickly becomes tiresome. It also had a strange multiplayer mode that felt like an afterthought to the main game. 3. Batman: Arkham VR. Despite its position near the bottom of this list, Batman: Arkham VR is a fantastic game. It's just that the bar for Arkham games is set so high. Following Arkham Knight, this escapist fantasy of a virtual reality experience was released in 2016, and it is technically the last legitimate Arkham game. It conveys a compelling story without feeling like a jumbled-up Batman toy box. You'll grapple, battle bad men, and even have hallucinations thanks to the Crown Prince of Crime, but it'll all be part of a compelling story that stands out from the rest of the games. You'd have to be a fool to skip Arkham VR if you're a self-respecting Arkham fan with a pair of goggles lying around. From the underpants ruining segment in the sewers to the intricate application of detective mode, you'd have to be a fool to skip Arkham VR if you're a self-respecting Arkham fan with a pair of goggles lying around. 4. Batman: The Telltale Series. Telltale Games ended on a high note, with the second season of its Batman adaptation, a groundbreaking look at the Dark Knight's interesting connection with the Joker, being one of its final releases. While the first season was essentially the same as the second, there were enough twists and turns and entertaining battle sequences to keep you intrigued. The Enemy Within, on the other hand, might be the most original modern Joker story we've seen. John Doe, played by Anthony and Gruber, is incredibly great, easily one of the best gaming performances of the last decade. You court the initially naive Doe as he falls in with a tough crowd in the pact and fights with his emotions over an electrifying Harley Quinn who is plainly up to no good in The Enemy Within. To say anything more would be to give too much away about the magic, but the plot slowly unfolds into cathartic magic as difficult choices compel you to shape your own worst enemy. While the naive and adorable John Doe is a ticking time bomb just waiting to go off in the background, the game compels you to choose between Batman's moral code, his secret identity, and the lives of his allies. It's a must-play for any Batman fan, especially if you're searching for something different than the undeniably fantastic Arkham Joker. 5. Batman: Arkham Knight. In 2015, The fourth and last Arkham game was released, and it was yet another innovative AAA product that defined its platform generation. Arkham Knight's sleek streets and particle effects felt extremely next generation, even if some of the new features that were implemented did not stick the landing. The Batmobile was ultimately too grandiose and didn't operate as intended, getting in the way of fluidity rather than complementing Batman's movement across Gotham City, as several critics pointed out upon its release. The game offered exciting new devices like the Jedi Mind Trick-esque voice synthesizer, which gave you more power while playing as Nightwing or Catwoman throughout the action-packed tale, with bats sometimes synthesizing in combat to thump adversaries with combined takedown. The story of Batman, Arkham Knight is amazing, and it brings back some of the best Arkham villains, such as Scarecrow and the Joker, as well as some interesting new opponents from the larger Batman canon, such as Man-Bat and Deathstroke, to fill in the gaps. The game's namesake, the Arkham Knight, is also a completely unique character, creating intrigue and mystery as you progress through the story. Sure, if you've seen beyond the Arkham curtain at some of Batman's comics, you'll see the twist coming, but it still created a lot of suspense. At the very least, they didn't tread the same terrain as Origins or play it safe. While the plot puzzles may be genuine brain teasers that made you feel like a super sleuth, the Riddler difficulties weren't up to pace, especially when compared to Arkham Asylum, which was doubly frustrating given that the game's extremely cool actual ending required the tedious problems. 6. Batman, Arkham City. Unlike Asylum, which appeared out of nowhere and permanently changed the genre, Rocksteady's follow-up was a premeditated hit. City allows players to explore a comprehensive open environment stuffed full of content as an even more powerful Caped Crusader, removing the stabilizers from their magnificent foundation. The free-flow combat has been polished into a cathartic dance of death, transforming each encounter into an intriguing puzzle in which the player must select when and how to employ their new devices to unravel the enemy AI. The game's plethora of side quests and Easter eggs drip tantalizing backstory into every crevice of its grimy, grimdark environment, which was supplemented by a rogues gallery of Batman's most heinous foes. However, the more eccentric choices, like as Clayface, Hugo Strange, and Ra's al Ghul, stand out. Of course, Mark Hamill reprises his role as the Joker, providing an incredible performance all the way to the game's famous conclusion. Even the DLC packs were terrific, providing further bursts of excitement for eager players. Like Arkham Knight, the Riddler challenges in Arkham City were changed for the worst, with more tedious tedium and one-and-done boss encounters that lacked the zest of Asylum's more startling and meaningful cameos. 7. Batman, Arkham Asylum. The element of surprise was present in Batman, Arkham Asylum. Rocksteady's magnum opus, released almost 12 years ago in August 2009, was a game of enormous ambition and scope from a relatively fresh firm that had never tried anything like it before. What Rocksteady created is still widely regarded as one of the best games ever made, a seamless reimagining of the characteristics of the superhero game that has since opened the way for a slew of other similarly revolutionary games that have drawn inspiration from its systems. Less is more, as they say, and by focusing the game on the decaying confines of Arkham Asylum, Rocksteady managed to create an atmosphere in which you could genuinely immerse yourself. Asylum caught the horror and claustrophobia of being imprisoned in with your worst foes running amok, making each encounter count. With Riddler tasks requiring you to record comic artifacts and uncover intriguing history about lesser-known villains, it also promoted investigation. You don't even have to be a fan of comic books to appreciate Arkham Asylum. With adrenaline-pumping action and stealth segments stacked between each brilliantly voice-acted dramatic flashpoint, it's one of the best stories ever told in a video game. Mark Hamill's Joker quickly establishes himself as one of the best interpretations of the character, but let's not forget about the rest of the villains, particularly Scarecrow, whose fourth wall-breaking sequences will likely go down in video game history as some of the most stimulating and inspired. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.